Hey everyone, and welcome to What Did I Miss?, where today I'll be breaking down the first episode of the second season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, titled The Broken Circle, and looking for all the references and Easter eggs I could find. At its core, Strange New Worlds is a prequel to many of the genre-defining events that Star Trek fans have enjoyed over the years. It seemed like every entry in the first season had some moment or event that the audience knew would pay off later. The second season starts in a similar fashion, with an episode that on the surface could be seen as a simple rescue mission, but the events that unfold will eventually result in two of the major powers in the galaxy seeking peace on the precipice of war. But before I get into everything I saw, I just want to thank you for clicking on this video, and ask that if you do enjoy it, to hit that like button to help support the work that I do. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so that YouTube will let you know when my new videos come out. Besides breaking down each episode, I also have a weekly podcast that I release every Monday on YouTube, where I review each episode and also go over Star Trek and sci-fi related news, so be sure to look out for those when they are released. The episode begins with the USS Enterprise docked at Starbase 1. This facility was first introduced in the first season of Star Trek Discovery and is located on the edge of the Sol system near Klingon space. The facility also appeared in the first season of Strange New Worlds, where it was revealed that the station was created by connecting seed pods that had been sent from Earth into space during the planet's Third World War. This starbase is not to be confused with Sol Station, which was most recently featured in the final season of Star Trek Picard and is much closer to Earth. Parked next to the Enterprise is an Archer-class vessel, a ship type named after Jonathan Archer, who was played by Scott Bakula on the series Star Trek Enterprise and was one of the architects of Starfleet. In the first episode of the first season of Strange New Worlds, Captain Pike was told that Una was conducting a first contact mission while serving on the USS Archer, another Archer-type ship. Captain Pike is talking with Una Chin Riley, his former number one, who was arrested by Starfleet at the end of Season 1 after it was revealed that she is in fact an Illyrian, who are a genetically modified humanoid species that were first introduced in the Star Trek Enterprise episode titled Damage. Pike then decides to leave the Enterprise to help in Una's defense and puts Lieutenant Spock in command of the ship. This would appear to be the first time that Spock is put in command of the USS Enterprise, and the last will be in the movie The Wrath of Khan. When the film begins, Spock is in command of a group of cadets on a training mission before he concedes his command to Kirk once the ship is put in distress. Spock stops to speak with Dr. Mbenga and reveals that he is still experiencing emotions after the Gorn attack. In the first season episode All Those Who Wander, Spock succumbed to the emotions that he was feeling as a way to fight the Gorn and survive the ordeal. This is why we are seeing Spock deal with his emotions and not suppress them, which is by design by the creators of this series, since one of their stated goals was to explain why Spock is seen smiling in the pilot episode of Star Trek titled The Cage while Spock was serving under Captain Pike. In order to deal with these emotions, and more specifically stress, the Doctor prescribes music and gives Spock an instrument known as a Vulcan lute. Spock does stick with this 12-string instrument and is shown playing it in at least 4 episodes of the original series and 1 film, starting with the classic episode Charlie X. On the bridge, Uhura receives a hail while trying to keep a member of the support crew from messing with her station. It is worth noting that now Uhura is a full-fledged ensign serving on the Enterprise after she spent the entire first season as a cadet who was unsure of her future. The fact that she is so possessive of her station shows how committed she is now to her place on the bridge. Uhura tells Spock that the message is from La'an Noonien Singh, who took leave from the Enterprise last season in order to help a survivor of a Gorn attack find their family. Spock then goes to Admiral Robert April for permission to take the Enterprise to help La'an, but his request is denied. Robert April knows a thing or two about being captain of the Enterprise, since he was the ship's first captain, preceding even Captain Pike, a fact that was first established during the original animated series episode titled The Counterclock Incident. The planet where La'an is asking the Enterprise to go is rich in dilithium, a substance needed to operate warp drive. In about 900 years, an event known as the Burn will instantly ignite all dilithium in the galaxy, as shown in the 3rd season of the series Star Trek Discovery. So this is a place that you do not want to be when that happens. But even before that, mining dilithium was known to cause catastrophic accidents, such as when the Klingon moon Praxis was destroyed in the first act of the film The Undiscovered Country. Many of the events shown in this episode lead directly into that movie, and I'll explain more as we go along. Spock speaks with the bridge crew, and even though they seem reluctant to go, he tells them that he is willing to steal the Enterprise in order to save his comrade. This decision is also a prelude to Spock's actions in the original series episode titled The Menagerie, in which Spock once again steals the ship in order to help a comrade, in that case a decrepit Christopher Pike. The universe will reward his actions when, after his own apparent death, Spock's then captain, James Kirk, along with the future bridge crew of the Enterprise, steal the ship again in order to save his life in the film The Search for Spock. This is a bit ironic that Spock is stealing the ship in this episode to save a member of the Noonien Singh bloodline when it is her ancestor Khan that will be responsible for Spock's almost death in the future. The first act of sabotage on the ship is done by Lieutenant Mitchell, who causes a coolant leak in engineering. This may be a fun reference to another Enterprise engineer, Geordi LaForge, since actor LeVar Burton has adopted the idiom as a sort of catchphrase since he has shown to be fond of saying it during his time as chief.
Coolant leak! Bridge, we've got a coolant leak in the engine core. Coolant leak! We have a coolant leak, everybody! Let's go! Let's get out of here!
We are then introduced to Commander Pelia, who is played by one of the greatest stars that Star Trek has ever been able to cast, Carol Kane. She has been a renowned actress since her Emmy Award-winning performance on the series Taxi, and went on to star in classic films such as The Princess Bride, Scrooged, and The Addams Family Values, just to name my own personal favorites. I think that the accent that she has chosen to use for her character actually resembles the one that she created for her famous role Simca from the series Taxi.
What kind of dreams can you have while I stand here suffering, the innocent victim?
At the textbook signs of a warp core breach. You do know that I teach a course in warp core breaches at the academy, yes?
Her character is a race known as a Lanthanite, which is a new alien race of near-immortal humans. We learn that they have lived on Earth since at least the 20th century, which could tie into a future time travel episode this season. Pelia reveals that she is a close friend of Amanda Grayson, who is Spock's human mother. She is a character that has been played by many actors, most recently by Mia Kirshner on the series Star Trek Discovery. After Spock creates the worst captain's catchphrase in the history of Star Trek, the ship leaves for Cajitar IV. Then we see La'an in a drinking game with a Klingon. The outfit that she is wearing is very similar to the one worn by the Mirror Universe version of Philippa Georgiou while she was working for Section 31 in the Star Trek Discovery episode titled Point of Light. La'an then meets up with members of the crew while they discuss the situation. She exposes a plot to restart the war between the Federation and the Klingon Empire for profit that is being carried out by humans and Klingons working together. This type of false flag operation will eventually lead to a Cold War between the two powers that will crescendo in the film Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country, when it is revealed that a group of officers from both the Klingon Empire and Starfleet are working together in order to create all-out war between their people, which results in the death of the Klingon Chancellor, but does also lead to eventual peace when Captain Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise, that still includes Spock and Uhura, stop the assassination of the Federation president. This makes this episode basically a prequel to the aforementioned Star Trek film. Afterwards, La'an tries to sell a bunch of Federation phaser pistols to a Klingon contact. She pulls out a thermal detonator when she feels threatened, to which her contact says this:
"Are you sure you have no Klingon blood in you?"
This is a very interesting line of dialogue if you know the history of the Klingon people, which admittedly may or may not still be canon. But on the series Star Trek Enterprise, there was a plotline that dealt with why Klingons that lived during the original series era look so much different than they do starting in the first Star Trek film. That series introduced the concept of the Klingon augment virus, which was designed to create Klingon super soldiers using the DNA or blood of genetically engineered humans. These humans were descendants of these same genetically modified humans that served with Khan Noonien Singh and that he himself is. Even though it does not appear that La'an has any of the super soldier traits that her ancestor did, she does still carry his bloodline. So if this is still canon, it means that La'an doesn't have any Klingon in her blood, but it does mean that Klingons may have a bit of her blood in them.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
Meanwhile, Nurse Chapel and Dr. Mbenga are brought into a Starfleet ship that is being rebuilt. They deduce what is going on and decide that they have to reach the bridge at all costs and notify Starfleet. The Doctor gives himself and Nurse Chapel a green drug that immediately turns them into super soldiers and implies that it was used during the war. I believe that this vial may contain a substance similar to that of the augment virus, which shows that Starfleet continued to develop this form of genetic engineering after the initial release of the virus on the Klingons many years prior. This could help Una get reinstated to Starfleet if it is proven that the organization has sanctioned this type of genetic research. As they fight their way to the bridge, a Klingon D7 battlecruiser arrives. This ship is the most well-known Klingon-type vessel and was first introduced in the original series episode titled Errand of Mercy. The rogue Starfleet ship launches from the planet into orbit and begins to move towards the Klingon cruiser. The Starfleet vessel is a Crossfield class style ship, which is the same class of ship that the USS Discovery was before its many refits. Spock realizes that both Dr. Mbenga and Nurse Chapel are still on the ship, but also that he needs to destroy it to prevent a war. This is perhaps the first time that his character has been forced to make a choice based on the Vulcan proverb
that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Or the one.
After the ship is destroyed, Uhura is able to find evidence of the pair and they are beamed to the ship. When they are, I believe for the first time in the history of Star Trek, we are shown what it looks like from the perspective of someone who is using the transporter, which is pretty cool, but also terrifying. Spock is then invited to share a barrel of blood wine with the Klingon captain, where he also finds Pelia. She tells him that she wants to stick around on the Enterprise because she finds it so exciting. This is very similar to how the Enterprise convinced another engineer, Montgomery Scott, to join the ship in the J.J. Abrams 2009 Star Trek film.
I like this ship!
You know, it's exciting.
The episode ends with Admiral Robert April reviewing a signal that he perceives to be a threat from the Gorn. The Gorn are a reptilian-like species that was first introduced in the original series episode, The Arena. That episode took place on a planet named Cestus 3, and in the map, you can see Cestus located on the right. There's also a listing for the Galdon Terror system, and this is where an albino Klingon faced off against Jadzia Dax, along with 3 of the most famous Klingons in Star Trek history, Kang, Kor, and Koloth, in the Deep Space Nine episode Blood Oath. The Gorn have not been mentioned on screen that much since their first appearance, but they did appear as antagonists last season on Strange New Worlds. In the Star Trek Online game, they are shown to be aligned with the Klingon Empire, and their homeworld is in the Beta Quadrant near the Klingon border. Well, that was everything I saw, but let me know if I missed anything. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit that like button right now to support the channel, and I'll see you next time on What Did I Miss?